Shalom, and welcome to the Parasha Pod. I'm Rav Mordechai Rosenberg, here with Rav Menachem Leibtag. And we are talking Torah together. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, it's time to learn.
Parashat Miketz and Shabbat Chanuka. I want to begin, Marcus, you spent 6 years in Australia, and you're from
From Melbourne, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure the news this week was very shocking and everything. That was to all of us, but especially to you.
Yeah.
You knew anyone who was there?
So personally, I don't know any of the victims, but one of my close friends and former colleagues, her father was unfortunately killed. And Reuven Morrison is his name, Reuven ben Emmanuel, and
We should dedicate this share in his memory and flush them for all the cholim in memory of everyone who
yes,
fell.
unfortunately for all the cholim, and dedicated to him and to all of the victims. And B'ezrat Hashem will be able to light up the darkness this Chanuka. And I suppose touching on that, moving from that, a lot of people have been looking at this incident and looking at Chanuka and trying to
Find light.
Yeah, trying to find some light, trying to draw some inspiration from Chanuka. It seems to me one simple image is, the Chanuka candle lighting up the darkness. Do you have something else to share with us? Something maybe a bit deeper?
There's a famous, Mizmor we sing, Mizmor Shir Chanukat Habayit to David.
Right.
And David praises God. He lifts Arim, I'm going to praise you, God, because you brought me up from the depths.
Right.
Chitani mir divor. So there's allusion there to, I think, to Yosef. Because Yosef, in that position in his life, he hit rock bottom, pun intended. In other words, the bottom of the pit, and then he's sold to Egypt. And in his life, he's finished. And then, no matter how low he was, he recovered. He recovered beautifully. And the question, what he does with this recovery. But in that Mizmor, you see that no matter how low and how bad Jewish history can be, there's always room for recovery. So it's just knowing there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's important not to give up. The question is what we need to do to get out of that. How do we get out of that pit? How do we get out of those dark times? How to recover? I think maybe in the story, maybe Yosef has something to teach us.
Nice. So you're saying that little symbol of the light is to say there's hope at the end, and we've been in dark places before, and we will get out.
In Yosef's own life, he hit rock bottom, but there was recovery, and that's part of how he led his life. And maybe his life can be an inspiration for us. What we need to do, not only not giving a hope because we know there's light at the end of the tunnel, but what action we need to take. Yosef doesn't become depressed and passive. He's very active. He's he's involved. He's doing his best to do something. Now he doesn't contact his family. That's a different issue. But he doesn't give up on life. He has aspirations, and he sees God in his life everywhere.
Nice. So he stays true to that.
Notice God is. I think he talks about God more than any other character in Chumash, in his conversations with other people. Halo lahim pitronim. Every time people ask him questions, he credits God for everything. He credits God for his dream interpretation.
Right. So that's the next thing I was interested in asking him about is, how does Yosef know how to interpret dreams? I kind of asked you this last time, but I feel like there's more there. We don't see God talking to him. Like he talks to many other characters. We don't. Is Yosef simply just really smart and perceptive, or has he got some kind of Freudian method for interpreting dreams? He gives God credit, but we don't hear God talking.
Listen, there's logic. There's a bit of logic. He's bright, but it's also the hand of God behind it. I think he sees when he says "Halo lalim pitronim." Maybe it's a type of tefillah that maybe God will help him find the right solution. And what are we told over and over again? Everything he's doing, God's with him. When God's with him, things are going well, but he knows to attribute that to God. When someone is matzliach, when he's successful in life, who does he give the credit to? To himself or to God? So, you have to try on your own to be successful, but knowing to be successful and give God the credit, that's Vayvarech David pretty much. David reaches greatness, and when he thanks God, he says, L'cha Hashem Magdula, you get all the credit, which is very important. When it's important to be successful and prosperous, but who gets the credit and what you do with that? So again, there's logic that, the butler and the baker, bread being a symbol of Egypt and chametz, something negative, and wine being the symbol of Israel. Maybe that was his clue. What else was there? The famine coming to Egypt. I mean, one of the cutest things there is what keeps the lean cows alive? The fat cows. So, when the lean cows survive eating the fat cows, that's telling you that the way you're going to survive the lean years is from the fat years.
Right.
I think that's mamash. That's right in the dream.
Interesting.
What Yosef knows from his own dreams. Again, I think he's successful because God helps him, and I think he knows how to thank God and he attributes all his success to God.
Right. So, saying maybe it's a kind of a prayer that he utters, Halo Lakim Pitronim.
And he says right to Pharaoh, he asked me a question, Halo Lakim Pitronim. Now, does Pharaoh think he's God? Because does he bring to himself or to God? That's interesting. But he's very impressive because it comes true. Now, Pharaoh doesn't know whether he's right or not in the beginning. But no.
The butler and the baker seem to know straight away that Yosef's right.
I mean, we find out within a couple of days that he was right. And that's what gives him credibility.
But it's also like Paro seems to know. Pharaoh has this inkling that...
listen, predicting 7 years of plenty is not a big... that happens a lot in Egypt because of the Nile. Predicting years of famine, that's far-fetched. But if it's a way, it's great economic planning because thanks to Yosef's advice, Pharaoh makes takes over the whole country. Whether good or bad, maybe that's a topic for next week of the whole policy of buying up all the land. Yeah. Whether that was something that was wise or not. Right.
I see. So the main point is that he gives credit to Hashem for his success. That should be the main takeaway from this.
But you don't sit back and wait for God to do it. You get involved, and when things go well, you give God credit.
Nice. Okay.
Usually, most people, when things go bad, you blame God. When things go good, you pat yourself on the back. Right. And Yosef has the right model. When things go bad, it's his fault. When things go good, he attributes it to God.
Nice. Okay. So the brothers come down. They meet Yosef. They don't recognize him. And Yosef requests that they come back with Binyamin. And Yaakov is very reluctant to send out Binyamin. So I've got two questions on this. Firstly, what is Yosef's plan? Why does he insist on them bringing Binyamin? Is it because, just a thought that I've had is, when he doesn't see Binyamin and they say, we have another brother who's up, he didn't come, does he think maybe they killed Binyamin? And he wants to check that Binyamin's really alive.
I mean, there's no reason for them to lie. In fact, they can't lie under interrogation because he's not interrogating them all together. Obviously, he divides them up. And that's why when they say, Echad Eineno, one's missing, because they have no idea what happened to Yosef. We discussed that. And they can't lie and say, if Binyamin was dead, they would told him he was dead. He doesn't need to see Binyamin to know for sure he's there. Now, there's a famous Ramban where he says he wants Binyamin to come because he wants all the brothers to bow down to him to fulfill the dream.
Right.
And that's the famous question, which most Persians don't like that pirush, because why make people suffer just to fulfill your dream? Yeah.
Yeah. And another big part of this is, it says that Yosef remembered his dreams, and then he seems to play all these games, insisting they bring Binyamin. He fills up their bags with their money that they spent.
That's the question. Does he have a plan? You understand?
Yeah.
Is he just out to get them? Yeah. Is he like messing with them, etc., and playing God?
Or even is he just trying to make his dreams come true for some kind of personal sense of destiny, but nothing beyond that, like saying, I've had this great dream, would be awesome if it comes true.
So I want to claim that when Yosef remembers his dream, he interprets it and he realizes he wasn't dreaming, I'm the only one. First of all, he realizes that that dream was true, because I told you last time that the sun and the moon, it's Egypt and Mesopotamia bowing down to him. And now I realize all the brothers are broken, and he's the Bechor, he's the leader. And it's his job to bring the family together.
What do you mean all the brothers are broken? As in they're not...
All the brothers are chosen now.
Oh, chosen.
All the brothers are chosen. Yeah. It gets the 11 stars. No one dreamt of this. Now he understands his own dream much better. And if his dream is you're the Bechor, you're the family leader, it's his job to unite the family. What I want to claim is he's not just on the cuff, teasing them and driving them crazy. He wants to do something to unite the family. And if he would say right away, hey, I'm Yosef, they would never be able to talk to him because they'd feel bad. He wants to put them in a situation where they can redeem themselves. Meaning, he wants to put them in a situation where they have a choice. Either give up your livelihood for Binyamin. In other words, Yosef creates a situation where he's going to isolate Binyamin for, to be in slavery forever because he stole the cup. And the brothers can go free. And they have to choose between the father losing Binyamin and Binyamin being a slave or their own welfare. If they make a cognitive decision that we're going to sell ourselves into slavery, just anything, we'll do anything, just leave Binyamin alive, let him go back to his father. They're basically giving up their whole livelihood for the sake of Binyamin and their father. Then they've done tshuva to themselves, not just to God, but they've cleared their own conscience because they're in a similar situation and then they've done exactly the opposite.
Right. So you're saying they're not just trying to do teshuvah per se, but they're trying. Joseph's end goal is to unite the family, and he knows that there'll never be any true unity while the brothers are still
have that guilt of it.
What they did. So he needs to give them an opportunity to redeem themselves in their own eyes, so that he can fulfill the true meaning of that dream, which is
to unite the family.
And all those 11 stars bowing down to him is not a message of his own supremacy, but a message of all of their unity.
Or their unity, and he has to play leader, and the job of leader is to unite the people, not to cause friction between them. When something goes wrong, I'm going to get back at them. I was bullied, I'm going to bully back. That's what most people do.
Right.
You could be bullied, then you know what it feels like to be bullied, to be taken advantage of. And I learned from that to make sure that doesn't happen to somebody else. Now, but my understanding is, right at the beginning, his plan is to isolate Binyamin. And therefore, his first plan is to have them bring Binyamin so that he can keep. His original plan was to hide the cup in Binyamin's bag, but he has to bring Binyamin down first. Now, he puts their money in the bag first because he cares about them. He wants them to have food. He gives them the money back and lots of food, etc., because he cares about the family. But he wants them, he wants to wake them up. When he sits them all down by the age of their birth, right? He wants their minds to start, whoa, what's going on here? Yeah. And that works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And they recognize their guilt, and they realize they've done something wrong. So that works. But I think he's a master planner, and he has his whole plan from the beginning. And the second he says, I'm Yosef, your brother, it's already in Vayigash, he says right away, but don't worry about it. This is all for good. He's doing everything to unite the family. And if you're asking before about what we can do, when you're at the bottom of a pit, when things are really bad, and you're looking for hope. So it's not just praying to God that things can get better. If you want to be worthy of God's help, and if you want God's hashgacha to watch over you, then to make ourselves worthy, we have to act as a nation that works together. And all these things, what's called sinat chinam. I always tell you, there's always good reasons for baseless hatred, which we have to overcome. One of the key messages, I think, of the story is that we learn leadership from Yosef, and we see the dangers of sinat chinam, where each group is sure that they're right. When they're fighting growing up, remember? Yeah. Who's the matriarch, etc. Yosef overcomes all that and does everything to unify the family. So seeing the importance of unity. Now, you can have unity with 12 tribes. You have 12 different tribes, different hashkafot, different ways of understanding your Judaism, but you can see others as brothers and not as enemies. Right. So the ability to be able to work together and do things to achieve unity and see the hand of God behind events, but being part of those events by doing whatever's possible to create unity and positive action among the people, as opposed to friction and saying my group's better, my group's right, you're wrong, etc. Instead of playing that game of that immature game of who's right and who's wrong, and my team against your team, but seeing Am Yisrael as one big nation, that type of behavior can make us worthy of God's help.
Do you think that's even true in a place like Australia or Chutz La'aretz community where a lot of people are just expressing grief and sadness, but some people are criticizing the government and saying, the government hasn't done enough. Are you suggesting that maybe the true leadership that we need from the government or from any leader is to try and facilitate more unity and then to eradicate hatred? A lot of people saying, there's no place for hatred, or but or is this simply a Jewish only kind of method, in terms of saying we're going to be deserving by having unity amongst the Jewish people?
I'll give you an analogy. If you go to the dentist, you have a cavity.
Yeah. So
you have to take care of your cavity. But on the way out, he'll tell you, remember to brush your teeth. Now, brushing your teeth won't get rid of the cavity.
Right.
You have to deal with the cavity, you have to deal with the problem. But to make sure it won't happen again, brush your teeth. So if the government's mistreating you and not doing enough, you have to deal with politics and talk to your government, be involved to fight anti-Semitism for sure. But if you want to help prevent the problem coming in the future, act in a way that deserving things like this won't happen.
Right.
So
do you mean act in a way sort of like that things won't happen in a sort of a metaphysical sense, like we'll be deserving, so God will give us good stuff,
biggest
or
theme
also socially, like we say, like actually generate social cohesion.
The biggest theme in Chumash is that God reciprocates based on our behavior. We say it every day in Shema Od Tochochot. Now, what's good behavior? Ask your local rabbi. In other words, or read Chumash, or ask your local Navi, or read your couple of Navim. What type of behavior is God likes most, and what does he detest most? So what things does he despise, and what does he hope for?
So let's say you're my local rabbi.
What
are you going to be recommending?
Recommending to study Navi, study Shayahu, study Yirmiyahu, study Hosea, Amos.
Okay.
Especially we'll see in a minute, study Zechariah, for example. The time period of Shabbat Chanuka coming up.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why the rabbis put such a big focus on the miracle of the menorah is because what happened, we're thanking God for the great military victory of the Hashmonaim. We returned to sovereignty for the first time in the Second Temple period, the famous Rambam at the beginning of Hilchot Chanuka, that we're celebrating a return to sovereignty, which Haggai had predicted and finally came true hundreds of years later with the Hasmonean victory. And that was the first time in the Second Temple period that we reached sovereignty and prosperity, which are great. But so we thank God for that. But within 2-3 generations, that whole Hasmonean dynasty became corrupt and terrible sinat chinam. The brothers fighting with each other. The fall of the Hasmonean dynasty was because of brotherly hate, and they couldn't get along. Who's going to, become king, and who's going to continue, and by the Second Temple falls because of sinat chinam. That's clear from the stories. So if we're going to remember, if we're going to thank God for that victory, we also have to remember what went wrong. Now, the vision of Zechariah in chapter 4, the Haftarah for Shabbat Chanuka, it's not Haftarah we're reading only because it has a vision of a menorah that looks like a Chanukiah.
Nice. It's
that time period that Zechariah is talking about. Haggai and Zechariah are giving their prophecies in the second year of Dayavesh as they're breaking ground on the Second Temple with great hopes of redemption. But Zechariah's message is, in fact, in chapter 7 and 8 afterwards, it's the menorah chapter 4.
No, it's chapter 4. That's the Haftarah.
That's the Haftarah. But later, when the people ask a question in chapter 7 and 8, is this really going to work? Is this going to be the redemption? And they come to the delegation comes from Babylonia, from Bavel, asking the Kohanim and Yerushalayim question, do we continue fasting on Tisha B'Av? Basically, they're asking, is this really redemption? Is this Reshit Simchat Geulotenu? Zechariah's answer is, don't ask me, ask yourselves. You're fasting, remember why it happened, not what happened. And if you want this one to work, he tells them in Perachet Pasik Tetzain, he says, Eilad Bremisher Tasu, this is what you need to do. Dabru emet ishet reu. Ishet reu, speak truth, each man to his fellow man. Emet mishpat shalom shiftu b'sharechem. Do justice in your community, and don't think badly about your fellow Jew, and love doing emet v'shalom. Then the fast days can become holidays. So he's saying redemption is a possibility. God can set an historical opportunity for you to be redeemed, but the way we act in that redemption process is the key to its success. Now, the vision of the menorah that Zechariah has, we read about, that's the end of the Haftarah, where God asks Zechariah, do you understand what this menorah means? He said, I don't understand. He says, here's the message that God's giving to Zerubbabel and to Yeshua Kohen Gadol, the leaders. Lo b'chai v'lo b'koach ki im beruchi. The light of the menorah is telling you that if Haggai is promising a return to sovereignty and prosperity and greatness, that Jerusalem can be great again, as Haggai says over and over again in short 2 chapters, as they're breaking ground on the Second Temple, it can happen in Bayit Sheni, but it's not about sovereignty and prosperity. That's not the goal. Those are tools to become a nation representing God. Kim Bruchi, only through, it's not about Koach and Chayil, not about prosperity and military power. Those are necessary to become a nation to represent God. But you have to represent God in what you do with your sovereignty and prosperity.
And how does the menorah symbolize that?
About giving light. We're chosen to be it. No, it's to be seen, as we say with the Chanukiah. You have to be a light to other nations. and you're a light to other nations won't look at you if you're not a strong and powerful nation. But what you do with your power, what you do with your sovereignty, that's the key. If for homework, you can look at Tehillim 72, where I think we talked about that. Remember, I saw that it's fulfilling the vision of Yitzchak's blessing to Yaakov. I think it was Esav. Yabdu chamim shtafcha leumim. They said other nations will bow down to us because of what we do with our prosperity.
Right.
Our king takes care of the poor and the needy and uses that prosperity to do good, and unifies the country.
Right.
So, it's knowing that there's light at the end of the tunnel for sure is important, but how we act to be worthy of that light, to get that light, is important. And we have to light candles to remember there is light, but it's up to us to make that light. And how we act as a nation, as a people, is important.
Fascinating. Okay, so we've got the two aspects of Chanuka: the return of sovereignty, the military victory, and we've got
which comes with prosperity at the time as well.
Right. And we've got the miracle of the menorah,
which was a sign from God. That's not the reason. That's not the siba. That's the siman. The rabbis see that as a sign from God. There's something divine in this military victory, and it has potential for greatness.
Right.
But that potential has to be fulfilled by the people.
Right. So when we're saying we select this particular haftarah for Shabbat Chanukah, and we have the image of the menorah, but the point of it is actually Chaggai's message about how to make sure that this sovereignty that we've got is...
It's not the goal.
Right. It's
but
not
it's
the end goal, but it's a means to an end, which is to give light, to be that menorah.
Yeah. There's to be a nation representing God, to be this light to other nations, you have to be a nation. To be a nation, you need sovereignty, you need a strong economy, etc. What you do with it, you can be in a situation where other nations see you, how they view you, how you act as a nation, how you talk to other nations, how you talk within yourself, how you behave as a nation within yourself, how you treat other people. That's key. And God says, if you act properly, if you sanctify me in your day-to-day life, in your individual behavior and your national behavior, then that gives God a reason to watch over us and help us, to be worthy of God's help.
Right. So
now, it's never a one-to-one correspondence. You did the one thing wrong and therefore that happens. But it's a general, there was a question how much, in what ways God helps us. So you contribute every success to God, and when things go wrong, it's a rule of thumb. Things go well, we thank God. Things go bad, we should blame ourselves. Now, what we're doing wrong, that's something else. That's a different question. That's much more difficult.
Can you just explain that? Why shouldn't we blame God when things go bad too?
We can blame God, but God says He'll cause us trouble when we're not behaving properly. We say it every day in Shema, don't we?
Right.
If we follow God properly, all the tochachot say the same thing. You want blessings? Follow my mitzvot.
Right. And
sanctify me in your day-to-day life. And if not, I'll send a wake-up call. All the Ravim scream the same thing. Yirmiyahu says, I send Babylonians because of your bad behavior.
Listen, I know this is in Shema,
yeah.
And I know this is like a cardinal principle of Jewish faith. The idea that, Hashem has reward and punishment. But I feel like we kind of like come across this repeatedly. That I feel like this is something that for me, since the Holocaust, I just struggle to see this happening in our lifetime. For me, like, to look at the Holocaust and to maintain this attitude of like, when we look at the bad things that happen to the Jewish people, even as a whole, but certainly as individuals, that we can like say, must be because of something we did wrong. I feel like theologically we have to say a different answer. We can't apply.
It's not what God does; it's what man does wrong. Remember,
right.
don't.
Yeah, but
Rabbi Tal's great line, or whoever he quoted, that it was when people ask how could God let something like that happen, is how did man let something like that happen?
Yeah, but hold on, I feel like you're kind of jumping horses mid-race by saying that. I feel like, to say that we need to sort of improve our behavior, in order to, that's always a good thing to do.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to a theological approach to suffering, I just feel like I personally live in like an Eov type outlook in a post-Holocaust world, saying we just don't understand why all this is happening, and this kind of V'hayim Shamoa theology, of the second paragraph of Shema, of the reward and punishment model, I just feel like I don't know how to apply that in any
Because-
sensible
yeah.
way to
Listen,
our-
it's
our
hard.
world.
The generation that suffers through it, you
Mhm.
can't say you're to blame. And it's what we usually tend to do if we're going to blame, we blame somebody else.
Right.
You know, it's not me, it's some other group in Am Yisrael that's to blame.
Mhm.
But there's no one specific cause, it's a general thing. You know, each group has to improve whatever they can do better. Now, there's no one-to-one correspondence, oh, this one person's behavior caused this terrible tragedy.
Mhm.
No, it's a conglomerate kind of idea. As a rule of thumb, if the Jewish people are acting in a way that sanctifies God, God will watch over us and take care of us again on the group level. Now, there's always dual causality. There's always reasons when evil nations do evil, God says, I'm sending the Babylonians to punish you, but when they're finished, I'm going to punish them for all the things they did wrong
Mhm.
after 7 years. And God says, I'm sending Ashur to punish you, but I'm going to punish them for what they did wrong afterwards.
Right. Well, we deserve punishment, but they didn't have to be the
But
ones
to do it, exactly.
And
It's complex.
right.
Now,
but that
yeah.
part doesn't bother me so much. But the part of
It's not that we're to
saying we always
blame-
have to improve, or we have to look at what we're doing wrong. Like the flip side of that is saying, well, I mean, maybe this is not the flip side, but it seems to me that the alternate side to that is that you're saying that, or implying, or the logical consequence of that is that somehow people deserve these things.
Again, it's difficult. No one likes to hear that. That's why we'd rather blame somebody else all the time.
Mhm.
Now, again, the people are evil who do evil against us, they're evil, they're bad, we have to fight them. That's like,
Right.
if you have a cavity, you have to do a root canal, take care of it. But you want to make sure it won't happen again, brush your teeth. If you want to make sure another one won't happen. So you're not going to solve the problem by, you have to fight a war, when people out to kill you. But if you want to create a situation where you won't have another war coming on, act in a way that you'll be deserving of better hashkacha, better providence of Hashem over you. It's a difficult.
This is
Goes
a very,
well, though.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's very, very.
People don't like hearing
Challenging.
it, but
It's a very challenging.
yeah. But
thing to
you
say.
can't miss that message all through Nevi'im.
Mhm.
So you want to just dump out that's why people don't like reading Nevi'im. That's why I always like to say the Yeshiva world's non-profit. They don't
Because
study Nevi'im.
they're non-profit because they don't like studying the VM because
Yeah.
it tells them to do Shabbat.
Just read the first parak in Yeshayahu.
Right.
Remember, who needs all your prayer? Who needs all that? Look how corrupt your society is. Read Micha. Your leadership is corrupt. Everyone takes bribes, etc. And you think God's going to help you. You have the chutzpah to sit and pray and raise up your hands in prayer. They're harsh. They're super harsh. And don't be surprised, no one listened to them either.
Wow. So you're saying,
Again, I don't know who's to blame because I'm not blaming any specific person or any specific group.
Mhm.
But it's an indicator that something's wrong. What's wrong? You have to what's called cheshbon nefesh.
right, an internal
I mean, the first line of Shirat Hazinu.
soul
Remember,
searching.
Shirat Hazinu, the whole song is, remember, the whole theme is, when things go wrong, don't blame God.
Yeah.
Remember, Hatzur Tamim Polo, Ki Kol Derech HaMishpat. That's the opening line. God's always right. Hal Hashem Tigmel Luzot. You're going to blame it on God, you foolish people? He chose you, he looks after you. And remember, Zchori Mot Olam, study your history. It's a difficult message, but we always have the potential. We can never be thrown out. God, we're always God's people, but it's a roller coaster ride sometimes.
Wow.
But
It's a
not
thing.
only knowing there's hope, but knowing it's in our hands and how we have to behave to be worthy of hope. It's easy to give up and just blame everyone else and be depressed. And that leads to sinat chinam. There's blaming others is not going to help either. It's always that group, that group, that group. Each group has what to improve on.
Wow. So what I'm hearing from you is that on the one hand, we need to maintain hope.
Mhm.
On the other hand, we need to realize that to a certain extent, it's in our own hands to make an improvement. We can't necessarily plug the cavity. We can't necessarily solve the problem of, the immediate problem of anti-Semites running around doing terrible things to Jews. But in terms of being worthy of a greater divine protection, we need to all do soul searching in order to.
Yeah. I'm not saying we're not to blame for anti-Semitism, but the more we do, there's less a chance that God will let that anti-Semitism run rampant.
Wow.
Again, I'm not sure that's what I think. That's the way I understand what the Nevi'im are saying. I think it's black on white all through. Every Tochacha says that. We say it every day in Shema. We say it. All the Nevi'im say that.
Wow.
And no one listened to them.
So don't point fingers at the government. Maybe they've got stuff to be soul searching about too, but we
I don't want to get into politics.
We
but
need to search
yeah,
our own souls.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, what a thing to be taking away from this Parasha and from Chanuka.
But again, we need leadership like Yosef, who cares about his family. Sometimes he'll do difficult things, but his ultimate goal is look at the hand of God behind these things and let's unite the family and get over it. Remember?
Right. So that's the leadership that Yosef represents.
Remember, he
Seeing
says,
the hand of God
Yeah.
and unity.
And don't play God, he says. Remember when the brothers say, remember he says, that's in the end of Parasha, Vaychi.
Right.
My job is to make this nation work together and sanctify God.
Wow. Wow, what a journey. Thank you, Rav Leibtag. I feel like we've really delved into some very serious and powerful stuff here. We've, I'm
Again, there's tons of room for prayer, but prayer has to be transformative.
transformative of ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, God can, remember we ask God to Yoshev al Kisei Rachamim, which means he can also sit on Kisei Din. But we pray for him. That's why we always recite the 13 Midot of Rachamim. We know that God can be forgiving. But go back to Shemon Esrei. What's the first thing we ask God to do? We ask God for wisdom. Because without wisdom, without dot, without knowledge, we don't know to differentiate between good and bad. So we pray to God, give us the ability to know what's good and what's bad.
Yeah.
Goes back to Gan Eden. And then we have to want to do better. Because we pray to God, help us want to do tshuva, as opposed to blaming other people for our problems. And then if we know what we did wrong and we want to do better and we can learn from our mistakes, then we ask God for slicha. That's how we begin Shemon Esrei every day.
It's hard to...
It's not a chiyuv to say Shema, it's supposed to understand Shemon Esrei.
Yeah.
And we say, but in our opening Shabbat praise, we say, God remembers Chazdei Avot, and he can maybe go out, we can bring redemption for his Divnei B'nehem for the sake of his name. God can help us, but it's to sanctify his name.
Right, to spread more goodness.
So we have to be a nation that makes God's name great. So we have tremendous visibility among the nations. How we act as a nation is super important.
Right. Wow. Wow. Well, how we act is super important. We need to be that. We need to be that light of the menorah. If we do, then that will mean that the sovereignty.
And we're also an Am Kadosh.
Right.
Kadosh means not holy, means separated in the service of God.
Yeah.
So they're separated for us to look at, to remember that we're Kadosh. Remember? We're separated by God to serve him.
Wow.
Now, again, you can argue how to serve God properly. So we have guidebooks for that. But that has to be our goal to accomplish that.
Thank you. So when I'm looking at the lights of the menorah tonight, and I'm seeing that light shining in the darkness, the model that I'll be thinking of is to be the light, to be that light in the darkness that legitimizes the power that we have, that is the point of that power, and to utilize it for the sake of greater unity, and to do that soul searching to figure out how we can shine better.
Yeah, but it's hard to do as an individual. It's very hard because we're talking about a nation. But there's a beautiful analogy. I forget who it's attributed to, and that remember creation was this big, beautiful sphere of light. Remember the theme of Or is all through Chanuka, and that big sphere of light broke into little shards, broke into tons of little broken pieces, called shvarim, little broken pieces, shards of pottery. And there's two approaches. Is the goal of Am Yisrael to put that sphere of light back together, or just to give up? Now, the middle line is that in every broken piece, in every shever kli, in every broken piece, there's a spark of light called a nitzotz. That's the idea that Rav Kook talks about. So our job is not necessarily to put the whole globe together, but rather to find the spark of light in every little piece. Notice if you can find a drop of good in any negative situation, like you can have a terrible situation, there's always a spark of good. There are some good people who came and saved us and helped us, etc. If you can find that little spark in good, if everyone's able to find a spark of good in everything bad, that becomes the glue that you can put this sphere back together again. So not everyone can fix the whole nation. I don't think anyone can. But as an individual, everyone has to find that nitzotz of light. That's why Rav Kook's book are called Orot. And he talks about nitzotzot, all the little sparks. There's always a spark. In everything bad, everything broken, there's a spark of good. How to find that spark of good and how to make that light, that spark, turn into a candle and burn. and give light to others, that becomes the glue that can help us put the spear back together and get the light.
May we be successful in putting all the light back together and adding light to the world. Thank you so much. Once again, thank you for joining us, and wishing a refuah shalema to all those who've been injured, and a aliyat neshama, a elevation of the soul for those who have been killed tragically, and may this Chanuka bring more light to this world. Thank
Amen.
you.